I'm good. Just letting you know I'm real good.
All right. So how's it going over there?
Going wonderful. Hey, this is a super crazy short class.
Yeah.
I love this, but it's way too short. It's 50 minutes, and
Hmm.
at this point, probably 40 minutes. And every I guess freshman through senior in here, it's like if they hey, that's Chad teaching class, easy A, let's take it.
Right.
And so, but this is a beautiful class in that every week I have somebody different. Either you're on this big old screen over here, by the way. I see you about this big, and they
Yeah.
get to see life size. Matter of fact, which is we're gonna make you real big. There you are. So either in house or via the screen,
Yeah.
week through the 16 weeks, somebody different to talk about different areas of the music industry.
Love it.
As they get tired of hearing me talk about, when I was a kid, all you knew of was rock star or A&R.
Right.
Those were the two options. John's been all of those, both of those, and so so we're very similar in the sense that our careers are about the same length. You
Yeah.
toured as a guitar player, and I did not, and you've ran heads of company as a sync person, and I did not, and then you've written a couple of books, and I have not. We're very similar, and so now, John, I met you several years ago.
An
You did
ASCAP, right?
you, at ASCAP. That's right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
entered the market though as a touring guitar player, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Back in the '90s. Yeah. After I graduated from Belmont, you don't know what you don't know, so you just kind of go with what you think you know,
Oh, I
and
don't.
I thought, man, if I could go on the road and play guitar for whoever,
Hmm?
that's it. That's all I need. So I did that for about two and a half, 3 years, and that was a great time in my life. You're seeing the world. You're living in buses and airports and airplanes, and you think, man, this is all. This is it. But after a while, when you're 20 something, you're like, hey, I want to be more productive than just 2 hours a night. I kind of have a bias towards action, and when you're waiting around in the hotel for 8 hours a day, I'm like, geez, come on, let's do something. Um, so you kind of you realize, okay, man, this is what it is, and for some people that's awesome. So I got friends that still do it, and that's fantastic. But I wanted to be more productive than going on stage 2 hours a night.
Right,
So
right,
yeah, that was kind of the first. I kind of think of it in chapters. The first
right.
chapter.
And that you must have been writing on the road. You came home to a staff writing and producing gig with Sony.
Yeah, yeah. I was working with Sony a little bit during that time, but yeah, I wanted to. I was like, man, if I could just get on the road. This was like before Pro Tools, like back when Session 8, pre Pro Tools kind of thing. So I was like, man, if I could just get like a hard drive to record, you know, audio on, vocals on, that's all I need. So I was like, I just want to go get, I think it was a Mac 660 AV or 880 AV, one of those computers, and it's like that's all I want to get. So I saved the money on the road, and I was like, okay, I want to get this computer. I can do everything through this, and it was that was a way for me to like kind of go to the next chapter. Touring was awesome, it was fun, made a little money, but kind of got bored of it,
Right.
relatively soon. So yeah, that turned into a publishing deal at Sony, and it was awesome. It was like you were getting paid. This was back in the days when you got paid to do demos and production deals and developing writer deals. Um, this was in the Garth era, so it was very.
Money.
It was a great time in Nashville. Um, so yeah, I got paid to oversee the write the song, produce the song, hire the musicians, mix it, and turn it in. So I was like, man, this is great. Let's just do this. Um, so yeah, I mean, that was a great time. You learn a lot about yourself. In each chapter. It just kind of is a clarifying thing of, okay, where are my strengths and what am I really best at?
Right.
So, so yeah, that was a great time writing for Sony, and you know, it's great. I was just talking to a buddy of mine who's actually still at Sony. I guess a lot of people kind of make the mistake of saying, I want to own everything.
Right.
I read it on a blog where somebody said you want to own everything, and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did not own everything, because I'm still getting checks for 50% of that catalog at Sony, and it was not. I mean, the music I was writing was very, I was a developing writer. I wasn't a Brett James or, top level writer. So the catalog wasn't an amazing catalog, but still, it found uses and it's still generating, money now. And I'm glad, I wasn't like a prima donna thinking, man, I want to own 100% of my songs are brilliant, So yeah, it was a great time.
Especially being with a company like Sony, as large and wide as a net that they have, you probably found uses that otherwise, especially on your own, you would never have found.
To this day, I mean, it's still bearing fruit, not only at the catalog level, but more importantly at the relationship level.
Right.
It's just, writing at Sony for 3.5 years, and there's still people that, recommend legacy artists to us now in a totally different capacity. So
right.
It was a really fun time.
Speaking of that different capacity, one of the things we've talked about, one of the most consistent things they've seen in this class is that we might start out with a vision, okay, I'm going to tour the world.
Yep.
But, a few years in, you realize, well, I've done that, and I've done that now, and I wore that hat, and then I've done this, and I've done this, and especially when you were on the road, you were already kind of gearing into, no pun intended, the tech world.
Yeah.
I record, how can I be productive? And as long as I've known you, you've always been building and creating and assimilating teams.
And
so the tech thing has kind of carried you through a good bit.
I don't see a difference. I look at music and entrepreneurship as the same thing.
It is very much the same thing.
It's a blank piece of paper. And as a musician and entrepreneur, you have to answer the question, what do I want to put on this paper?
Exactly.
Is it an asset or a copyright or a recording? Is it a technology component? Is it, a platform or an app that solves a problem? It's the same thing. I don't
Right.
I don't see the difference. It's you bring something into the world that wasn't there previously, whether it's a asset like a copyright or a master or a technology solution.
Platform.
Same difference.
So when you came out of Sony, that's probably about the time that we had met, and you had already started, established a couple of companies. Well, early on there was one called the Ripcord.
Yep. Yeah.
But you way into even then really focusing on sync and placements, probably a little earlier than a good bit of people, especially in Nashville.
Yeah, I guess after Sony, that kind of grew into a production company because we were producing one song at a time. So spend a couple weeks on it, try to get as best you could, and then turn it in.
Right.
So that one song at a time thing turned into 10 songs at a time. Producing the whole record and kind of overseeing the scope of the record. Every 3 months it was a different record. And this was late 90s, early 2000s. And, as we're producing a record, we would have opportunities for licensing for Dawson's Creek or HBO. And we didn't think much of it. We were like, okay, sure, yeah, go be on Dawson's Creek. That's awesome. So yeah, that was a secondary revenue stream around our production company at the time. Yeah.
And how did that? How were they finding that information, like the songs or off of those albums? What was the connection between what you were doing and how music supervisors were finding you, or did you seek them out, or have someone on the team that was working that?
We weren't that organized. I mean, we were more like, just let's produce another record. Let's produce every 3 months. Let's do another record.
Right.
So it was really, this was, I guess, back in the MySpace days. So gosh, I don't know how I guess it was MySpace. People found songs on MySpace and said, hey, I'm working on this series. I'm interested in this song. It's $1,000. Do you want it? And we're like, sure, we want it. Yeah. So yeah, it just kind of came. We were not proactive in going out and building those type of relationships.
So it kind of, well, it's very interesting you called out MySpace, because that has come up 3-4 times at least in here of that time frame. We kind of giggle and smirk about MySpace now, but it was in hindsight, it was such a magnificent discovery tool for folks like yourself. Here's a catalog, and the scouts out there, whoever's listening and trolling through all these and finding songs. Hey, I got $1,000. Will you take it for the show? Yeah. Absolutely. Sure. We got the master. We got the copyright. Let's do that. Yep. And then how many bands got signed? Yeah. We didn't realize it at the time.
And now we use it. We're in an executive producer capacity. So, now that it's Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, it's like, we're actively using those tools, to discover talent and to build opportunities for our artists. Yeah, I mean, it was a great tool. It was messy. It was, it was great. I mean, it was not a beautiful solution, but it worked.
It worked very well. In hindsight, yes, it was messy or slow and laggy or whatever, and all the different things we're trying to get from here to there. But the amount of people that we're now talking, it comes up. Yeah. Well, I guess it was MySpace. Somebody found me on MySpace, or I auditioned for a band, 16 states away, and got the gig, and got signed by a major label. And it was from that platform. And we have remarkably better platforms now, but they're not known for that. Like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that. It's a large tool. Everybody's on it, and the noise is so loud, but it's not designated for.
Yeah,
artists come and hear us.
The challenge is the signal to noise. Lots of noise, very little signal sometimes. So the challenge for artists, producers, right brain people, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call them, the challenge is to message what you do better than anybody else. So you really have to pay attention to how you talk about what you do. Because it's not really about spamming people. It's not really about who's the best talent. It's about how you communicate and message what you do. So yeah, I mean, the tools are everywhere now, but it's I see them as ways to cut through the noise. I mean, we pay attention a lot to how we message in megaphone. We call it our megaphone, how we message out what we do and how we're different than other people. So yeah.
So with that said, I'm going to get out of your way a little bit, and so we kind of went through where you came from, how you got in, then you started kind of focusing on, okay, I can do this, and we can create the content. Mm-hmm. And since that company, you've went on and you've launched a few more. Jetpack has been around for a while now, and you've added on duties and responsibilities that, management, some label services. Obviously, sync is still a good part of that. Kind of take us through what you're saying there and how you use the megaphone, and then let that kind of get on into, because you've recently authored a book.
That's right. Yeah.
That will probably be used in a lot of areas at this point going forward, called Hacking Music.
Yeah. We just finished a book called Hacking Music and launched it a few months ago. We did a soft launch at Harvard last April and at a music entrepreneur conference up there. So yeah, we could talk about hacking music. But yeah, Jetpack is a holding company. It's a venture studio that accelerates high potential artists and IP. So we have a management business unit. We have a sync business unit called the Sync Center. We have an artist services unit, and so there's a lot of ways you can help people. They're just different ways. Some things we want and believe in, and want to invest in at Jetpack. Other times we're just hired to do the music for Microsoft. So it's a different team there, but there's overlap. There's a lot of Venn diagrams in what we do. We have a team at the Sync Center. We have a team here in Nashville and a team in London, and we're actually going to be announcing an edition in LA as well. We get, 20 or 30 calls a week. Our friends at BMI are kind to send many of their sync requests our way. These are people that are trying to do the right thing. They're working on a film. They want these 5 songs. They don't know who to talk to. They've never done licensing before, so we're able to come alongside of them and partner with them and say, look, we know everybody in that space. We can handle your music supervision for you, or we can create music that is a little more cost effective. Once they see a price tag for Glenn Campbell, Rhinestone Cowboy, they go, oh wow, it costs that much? Well, maybe we'll create something that feels like Rhinestone Cowboy and save you a lot of money. So there's some wraparound services that we offer at the Sync Center there as well. That's kind of a quick overview of Jetpack. We've got young country artists. We've got a guy named Jeff Coffey, who was the former lead singer for Chicago, plays some with Don Felder. We're going to be releasing a record next year on him. Also, we've got a guitar player named Chris Rodriguez, who's played with everybody from Kenny Loggins to Peter Cetera to Keith Urban. Fantastic guitar player, singer, side guy, but he also has this amazing jazz ability that we're going to be releasing an instrumental record next year on him. So there's just a lot of ways that, when you're not tied to the old school business model of, I'm a record label or I'm a publisher, it's like if your business model decides what you do, that's a place where you don't want to be. You want to be able to see opportunities and go, man, a lot of people need help licensing music for, whatever. You can help people. How can we help the most people? That's kind of what we talk about.
Service industry.
Yeah. But we also have a catalog of masters, a catalog of songs, technology, IP. So it's really IP. We're building IP, whether it's a copyright, a master, or a technology platform.
IP, obviously, you're probably familiar with that, intellectual property.
Yeah.
And well, for instance, on the management, kind of taking the sync hat off a little bit, obviously you're creating content, so you own the contents, or at least have access to full control of them if you're not owning them.
Right,
so you have, say, a new Chris Rodriguez album, which I did not know that and can't wait to hear it. At this point.
This is the first time we've talked about it at all. We haven't actually.
Hey, look at there, privy to inside information. So you'll have this body of work. Obviously, it will go into your catalog for the choosing for sync. Right. But on the management level, and that may be the primary focus for such an album, I don't know. But the management level, what do you do then with this type of special?
This is part of the reason why we wrote Hacking Music. It's a lot of artists. There's the phrase that I've heard a couple years ago that said, "Musicians are made of magic." And what that means is that musicians do stuff that just are beyond any way to track or measure or manage that stuff. And there's a part of that that's true. There is a magical thing that happens creatively. I mean, yeah, that is true. But you can't build a career thinking that you're made of magic. You have
Right.
to have some support and some platform and a team around you to really go from a talented individual to I have a 10-year career. Very different things. So that's why we wrote Hacking Music is to really help right brain people kind of think like a technologist or a hacker, and to really bring those hacker abilities, worldview, bring that to bear on the creative person, to where they're not just, look, nothing against NSAI, but the idea of it all begins with a song is very simplistic. It may begin with a song, but it ends with a team and a political, you're going to war for this artist. So it's really, about how do you build support and teams around talented people. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. For instance, a couple of weeks back, we had you're familiar with Single Lock Records here
Yeah.
in Florence. Is Ben Tanner and John Paul White and
Awesome.
a couple other
Yeah.
guys collectively have this little label here at home, and it's pretty cool. Very eclectic artists typically, and they've released a traditional blues album on a fella, and so everybody they have is probably not going to fall in the straight up typical commercial veins. They will all kind of, if we could, we would lump them all like Americana artists, which is too big of a bin to hold everybody, So,
Right.
but the same would be said is with their label. The same marketing that would work for St. Paul and Broken Bones is not going to work for Cedric Burnside, and so they have to take it one at a time, and it's very expensive to promote an album, and then you have to find your audiences. Where is this album geared towards? Where we can't just blanket it anymore the way a label would with lots of money and then just see if it works.
Yeah.
Kind of have to know that outlet. Does that Hacking Music kind of dig into that mindset and that philosophy?
Yeah, it's very much. I don't know, Chad, if you can see this, but tell me, can you see what's on my screen?
And
You cannot. Lovely. So, it's there's two legs of the table. One is content, and the other is platform. So artists traditionally love to think about content. It's the sexy thing. It's the creative thing. It's like Christmas Day. Every day, I want to go create. But when you think about building a career, you actually have to build a platform around that. One stat we heard is 20,000 releases are released a day. So 20,000 songs, albums, whatever, however you bracket that, are released a day. So that includes Taylor, that includes Keith Urban, that includes Lady Gaga. So somehow you've got to compete with those 20,000 each day. So we think a lot about the platform side of it. Someone like Chris, to give you an idea just how off the charts he is with content, he's got 80 songs recorded for this. And I'm going, holy crud, 80 songs, that's like a greatest hits package, right? So he's like so far up here on the content side. It's like, okay, let's build a platform around you so where people know about you. We'll do some pre-sales. We want this to be a success. What we fight against, our enemy, is what we call thud. You release something and it just goes thud. Nobody cares about it. It goes into Spotify, iTunes, and it's a vast black hole of nothingness. So, when you're building a platform for an artist, and that includes, touring, digital footprint, social media numbers, operational team, partner, sponsor relationships, those kind of things. They're not creative, They're not as sexy, but those things really allow for a career to be built and the content to be heard. Ultimately, that's
Right.
that's the thing we're talking about. But the people that just focus on content oftentimes end up working at Starbucks.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Got this thing. What do I do with it?
Yeah, I'm. You can't just write songs on your stool anymore.
Yeah.
It it all begins with the song is a little misleading.
Yeah.
or overly simplified, we'll say.
Anybody got any questions yet so far, Dolph, for John? Question, Mueller.
Yeah, happy to take any questions. And also, Chad, something we'd like to do for your students there. How many students do you have there in the room?
12, 14, 16, 18, 22 or 3.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we'd like to kind of gift your class a digital copy of Hacking Music. So if they want to go to the website, they can. There'll be a pop up, and they can log in, and we'll send them a digital copy of Hacking Music, which it's a textbook, so it's a $89 price point, but
right.
Because we know you and we know your heart and your mission for creatives, we wanted to make that available to your class.
Man, thank you so much.
You bet,
Very
you
cool.
bet.
There you go. That's what
But there is one catch. If you do like it, we'd love for you to leave a positive review on Amazon.
There you go. That's a good trade, right? If you like the book, get on Amazon, leave a good
That's
positive review. And if you ever go, a couple of guys I work with, as we send guys, we talked about, they have a podcast. We talk about that quite a bit in here. And at the end, they're all the time say, if you go, leave a 5-star review if you love it. And if you don't love it, leave a 5-star review because that's as bad as it gets. And so they
That's right.
they always ask for the 5
It's all
stars.
5 stars.
And it's worked. They tend to get number 1 on the chart on there.
That's great.
Most weeks. So, but yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
So you can just go to jetpackartistventures.com, and there'll be a pop-up that comes up, and you can sign in, and we'll send you one soon after.
Code or anything that they need, or do they just need to...
No, it'll ask. I think it'll ask for an email and sign up, and then we'll send it to them in the next 48 hours.
Nice. There you go. Jetpackartist.com.
Jetpackartistventures.com.
Ventures.
Yeah.
Jetpackartistventures.com. Very cool. So the Sync. Now you had the Sync Center. Is that related at all? Before that, in between Ripcord and Jetpack, there was another venture.
Yeah.
It was more based on a kind of built library.
Yeah. So we had originally. This is an important lesson too, because we learned how to listen to the market. We thought what the world needed was this massive online technology platform that connected Jimmy Van Heusen's catalog to John McCullough's supervision stuff. So we were kind of assuming like this is what the world needs. This is what the world needs. And as we were building it, we spent a lot of money on technology, a lot of resources and effort. But what we heard as we listened to the market, we were getting all these calls about people just needing help with supervision and clearance. They're like, hey, I'm doing a movie for Showtime. We want these 5 songs, can you help us not go to jail by using these 5 songs, basically?
They weren't having an issue trying to find the songs.
No.
They were having an issue of knowing what to do with them.
Exactly. So we were like, So for like a year, we said, no, we don't want to do that. We're going to build this awesome technology platform that is sexy, and we're going to take over the world. And it's like, look, let's listen to these 10 people that are saying, hey, we want to hire you to help us with our supervision and clearance. So, it took a long time to get that through our thick skulls, but we were like, okay, maybe it's not a technology platform. Maybe it's a relationship, human platform of, we know everybody in this world. We can help we can make this pain go away for Microsoft, DuPont, HBO, Showtime. You know, all these filmmakers. There's just a massive. If you look at Vimeo, YouTube, Amazon, Netflix. There's just all these growth opportunities. I think Netflix is spending 20 or 30 billion on new content. That's a lot of money on new content, and you know everything needs music. So it's a real growth opportunity, and we're expanding to kind of fill the need.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Here's somebody that's willing to say, "Hey, we made a mistake going down this path," because it did look like we met several times about that platform.
Totally.
And different with, and it looks great. Okay, but one of the key reasons for that was because so many of us are trying to get into that market, and we're just like anything. Hey, here's my cassette.
Yeah.
But I forgot to put my name on it.
Yeah.
But there's a key set of things, kind of focusing on the sync world for just a moment.
Yeah.
Metadata.
Yep.
Is everything. The information is everything. Can you kind of explain what that is?
You know, Chad, there's two levels of content. You know, there's library level, the bottom of the pyramid, like this, and then there's upmarket, which is the top of the pyramid.
Right.
At the bottom of the pyramid, if nobody knows your music, and you're just pitching and pitching and pitching, you have to have your metadata bulletproof.
Right.
Mike Elsner is great. He contributed a chapter to the Hacking Music book.
He's been a guest for us.
Yeah,
so
he's great. So you know, he could tell you everything you need to know about metadata. What we do is less. You know, it's like I need AC/DC. Okay, so you don't need any metadata with AC/DC. Everybody knows, you know, Back in Black. So so it really has, for what we do, it has less to do with metadata and more to do with budgets, negotiations, managing the spend for the project. And sometimes we'll use library music. A lot of times we'll use our own catalog because that's kind of, you know, next in line after AC/DC is our catalog. You know, then after our catalog is the rest of the world stuff.
Right.
So, because we want to feed our people first, you know. So I don't know. I'm not to dodge your question about metadata, but for us, it's less essential, you know.
But that was a big part of the previous company.
Yeah, that was. That's right. That's right.
And yet, as of today, we are not AC/DC.
That's right.
And so, so that's the area that we would need to focus on earliest, is making sure that all that's in there. And what that is it's getting harder and harder for folks to clear if there's more than just a few people.
Sure.
You know, 1 to 2 or 3 involved on that, because they don't have time, or what we're finding, they don't have the knowledge or the resources to track down if 5 different people in this room co-wrote a song and then 2 other people on the master, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what they're coming to John for, is like, hey, we'd like to use this song, but we don't know these people, don't know how to get in touch with them.
That's right, yeah.
And early on, what I was regarding to the metadata, for that level, if you don't have the information already there, you might as well just say, I don't really want the placement.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be ready to do business when business comes to you, but, you know, you can kind of, we're big, and there's a chapter in the book, you know, it's learning and doing. You know, a lot of people spend a lot of time learning, and we're big believers in just do it. You learn by doing. You don't learn by reading blogs, really, you know. So what I would recommend is you know, for a talented creator, producer coming up, I would say get alongside somebody that knows 10 times more than you and just absorb it. I've been doing this for years. I as a studio musician and guitar player, I was fortunate to work on a record with Tim Pierce, and Tim had played on Rick Springfield, just hundreds of thousands. He's like Dan Huff, you know, just played on thousands of records. And just being in that room for a week and playing with him on this record, I was like, holy cow, the bar is up there, you know. So if you can get alongside somebody and just be a sponge for 6 weeks, 6 months, a year, do that. Find a way to do that, whether it's through Chad or Mike Elsner or whoever. You know, get along. Find a mentor who can, you know, you can absorb the way it really works. Because there is, like you know, Chad, there's a tremendous amount of bullshit and noise in this world. You know, it's gosh, the election's tonight, so it's just Facebook and Instagram are off, you know, they're broken. Everybody, you know, so
filled with joy, aren't they? Aren't they just all feel like Christmas and everybody's happy?
Yeah. So I'm a big believer of getting alongside people who, you know, have done this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and just say, hey, I want to learn from you. Can I ride shotgun for 6 weeks? You know, that's, yeah, you can get your metadata together, but, you know, if you can work on a dozen projects, all of a sudden you just worked on a dozen projects and you know, I mean, that's real world stuff. It's not what a blogger said on, you know, some panel at an expo somewhere, you know.
Yeah. Very good.
So.
Very good. Any questions? Nobody. They're always
Ask
very
away.
quiet.
No bad questions.
So you have, you'd mentioned you've got some folks that, you know, like if Microsoft comes in, you know, they're looking, but you're looking to, they're more times than not, they're wanting created content.
It's both
Like
and, you know, so we do all their developer conferences. They do like 6 a year. So we do all their music for their developer expos. And, you know, that's created new music. That's licensing well-known songs. It's handling music in whatever capacity that looks like. Sometimes we'll do re-records. Sometimes we'll license AC/DC.
Okay,
you know.
Makes sense. So on the music that you're creating, original music that you're creating for them, people always say AC/DC's music is original, but for ease, like the stuff that you're creating in-house, is that, are you getting to own that content and then you're licensing it back to them, or do they, you know, a company like that of that magnitude, are they expecting that to be a work for hire and then they will absorb that in?
It's whatever we want it to be. You know, we're not big believers in work for hire. We like to own our IP. So yeah, when we can not do work for hire, we don't.
Nobody ever encourages that.
Yeah.
With a company that size, sometimes, or is it an area that they don't know and they don't want to be in, so they're glad to pay the licensing for it.
That's right. Yeah, and it's funny too, because like Microsoft, we're like, guys, okay, we got to start early. We were in this headspace of we need to save Microsoft money, and they're like, yeah, we don't care. This event's in 2 weeks. We don't care if it's 5 times more because we've waited 2 weeks before the event. You know, it's interesting. They don't care about money. They're like, yeah, we'll just pay more. You know, we're Microsoft.
Wow.
So,
well, not a bad client to have.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all the way down from Netflix and filmmakers and film festivals, and you know, there's a lot of branded content for YouTube. Procter and Gamble, Buick. You know, Buick we did a big campaign with them to where, you know, on YouTube, the 6-second pre-roll that comes up on YouTube, all that needed new music, and some of it well-known music. So it's just a growing market. You know, it's not really singer-songwriter stuff like Nashville kind of focuses on. It's you know, music for screens.
Now and I'm asking some of these questions. I'm sorry if I'm taking up your time for a question, but the selfish motive. I noticed recently there's been quite a few legacy artists that you've acquired placements on. Does that work more as a broker at that point where somebody's looking for
Yeah, it's funny because it's like we have like the Hank Williams estate we're very close to, the Jimmy Van Heusen estate, you know. So as we're able to, you know, if we're working on a thing for Netflix, and we're thinking, okay, yeah, the Hank Williams estate, we know their catalog, we know them, we know they're reasonable in their prices, you know, we can kind of bring them into the deal. So it's really it's so much about relationships.
right.
You know,
Well, I guess what I'm asking is because you don't own the masters and you don't
Yeah.
own the publishing on that.
yeah, we
And
don't have to. We don't have to. As a music supervisor,
Record-
you know, we can bring in our catalog, and we do a lot of the times, but sometimes we just, you know, let's go get the Hank Williams songs. It's perfect. We don't have to re-record it. It sounds like the 50s. Done. You know.
Right.
So yeah, it's relationships and people.
So what I'm asking, when you're bringing in the stuff that you don't own, are you just marking up the fee? I mean, otherwise it's just passive. Hey, just go over there and get there. Or are you building in?
We handle all the licensing for the project.
So you have the budget. It's just like a
That's right.
producer's budget, and then you're going out. And so if I got $100,000 and if I can license it everything for 80, I've earned 20.
Yeah. We control the spend for the project. If there's, you know, $100,000 in music, then we need to say, okay, we could maybe afford 2 well-known songs, and then we got to really be selective in how we piece out the spend.
That's what I was wondering, if that was similar to a production budget.
Yeah, we're handling the budgets most of the time from top to bottom, but sometimes they'll just bring us in at the end to. A lot of times, filmmakers, you know, they get to the end of their film and they're like, "Oh man, I forgot about the music. We have to clear that." So we'll come in at the end and help them tidy up their music, and they're panicking. You know, they're like, "Oh, we spent all the money on the film. We're like, oh, you know, what do we do now?" So, a lot of time. More often than not, you know, baby filmmakers kind of make that mistake. So
Yeah. And then they like I said, they really want the one big song, and then you're scrambling and you're wondering why.
We got to have this, but you know, these other 5 songs we can replace and bring some other catalog songs in that are more reasonably priced.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, Don, we are towards the end of our time.
Yeah.
Anybody got any questions before we go? Very quiet class.
All right. Well,
Very,
if they do have questions, feel free to email. I do want to offer the book for your students, so they can go on and sign up for that. And
JetpackArtistVentures.com.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Very cool.
Great chat.
John, thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, bud. I'll see you soon.